I opened the envelope, expecting a card for my 68th birthday, but my heart stopped when I saw a bill. My own son Michael and his wife Jessica were demanding I pay rent in the very house I built with my late husband William, every brick soaked in our sweat and love. This home in the suburbs of Detroit, where the laughter of my 3 kids once echoed, had turned into a battleground. "Times are tough, Mom," Jessica said, her voice syrupy but sharp, like I was my heart twisted, not just from shock, but from the sting of betrayal by my own flesh and blood. I gave my life for them, sacrificed dreams, savings, everything to give them a future, and now they wanted me to pay to exist in my own home. But they were wrong about me. They thought I was frail, useless. Sitting in the room that used to be my sanctuary, I clutched that bill, my eyes blazing. They didn't know who I was, and I'd make them remember. This house isn't just 4 walls. It's my life, the dream William and I built together. We bought it when I was 40, a modest 2-story in Detroit suburbs, when William was a plumber and I was a school librarian. Money was tight, but every penny went toward making this place a home. I still remember William at the kitchen table, scribbling budgets to afford a new rug or fix the porch. We didn't have much, but we had each other, love, and big dreams for a house full of laughter. Michael, Laura, and our youngest, James, grew up within these walls. I see them carving their names into the oak tree out back, bickering over who got the bigger slice of apple pie, falling asleep to my bedtime stories. No cable TV, no fancy vacations, just snowball fights, jigsaw puzzle nights, and backyard campfires. Muddy shoes by the door, giggles in the hallways, hugs during thunderstorms. It's all still vivid in my mind. This house was where I poured my heart. Every corner holds a memory. The scratch on the floor from Michael's toy truck. Pencil marks on the wall from Laura learning to write her name. The old armchair where William and I held hands, dreaming of our kids' futures. When William died of a stroke at 48, my world collapsed. One afternoon, he was humming in the garage. The next, I was calling 911, hands shaking. Losing him felt like losing half my soul. But I stood tall. For Michael, Laura, James. For the grandkids, for the home that held our spirit. I kept going, keeping this place alive, even as my heart bore scars. Back then, my kids seemed to understand my pain. Michael would stop by on Sundays with bagels and coffee. Laura called every morning, chatting about her job or little troubles. James, quiet as he was, fixed the fence or mowed the lawn. I thought it was love, family, the way we held each other up through loss. But things changed slowly, like winter creeping into Michigan. Michael lost his job, and I saw his eyes shift. No longer the boy who clung to me when scared, but a stressed, irritable man. Jessica started coming around more, whispering in corners, her words making me feel like a burden. "You should rest more, Mom," she'd say. But her eyes screamed. I was in their way. Laura, my pride and joy, married Stephen, a sharp-tongued man who made me feel out of place in their world. James, my shy youngest, started dodging me, sending curt texts instead of visiting. I told myself they were busy, that modern life pulls people apart. But deep down, I knew something was wrong. Then the signs piled up. William's watch, our 20th anniversary gift, vanished from my drawer. "I put it somewhere safe," Jessica said, brushing me off. My mother's antique vase, a treasure from my childhood, disappeared from the shelf. "It probably broke, Mom," Michael mumbled when I asked. Then came the money requests, a few hundred for car repairs, a chunk for their mortgage, school fees for the grandkids. I gave without hesitation, wanting to be the mom who always had open arms. I thought that's how families worked, helping without keeping score. But those requests turned into demands. "You always said family comes first, right, Mom?" Jessica would say, her sweet tone laced with pressure. "You don't want the grandkids to suffer, do you?" I felt the ground beneath me shift, like the family I believed in was rotting from the inside. The day the bill arrived, my illusions shattered. a crisp white envelope on the kitchen counter. I opened it thinking it was a late birthday card or a note from a friend. Instead, it was an itemized bill. $5,200, 0 cents for rent and expenses from groceries to toilet paper in my own house. I called Michael, but Jessica answered, her tone like she was talking to a neighbor. We just want things to be fair, Mom. Everyone's got to chip in. Fair? The word cut like a knife. I looked around the room, once mine and William's bedroom, now a cluttered corner they let me stay in. I couldn't breathe, not because of the money, but because of the bitter truth. I wasn't their mother anymore. I was a tenant, a burden, an obstacle to manage. I sat there, clutching the bill, my heart pounding. I didn't cry, not now. I looked out the window at the oak tree, still bearing my kids' carved names. They thought I'd bow, accept my fate as a weak old woman. But they didn't know. I'm Anna Thompson, the woman who built this life from nothing with William. And I wouldn't let them take what was mine. Not ever. In the quiet of that room, I held the bill tight and a plan started to form. Sitting in that cramped, cluttered room, the bill in my hand, my heart heavy, memories of the old days flooded back, when this house rang with laughter and love. Those memories, warm yet painful, fanned a fire inside me. This house in Detroit's suburbs isn't just a place to live. It's my life, the dream William and I built. We bought it at 40 and 42 with big hopes and small paychecks. William as a plumber, me as a librarian. Every brick, every window frame was our sweat and hope. I can still see William at the kitchen table, budgeting for a new lamp or porch repair. We didn't have much, but our love and dreams for our kids made it enough. Michael, Laura, and James grew up here, each corner telling a story. Michael's toy truck scratched the floor. Laura's pencil marks still linger on the wall. James, my quiet boy, clung to me during bedtime stories. No fancy trips or big screen TVs, just snowball fights, puzzle nights, and marshmallow roasts in the backyard. The oak tree out back still bears their carved names, proof of those joyful years. William and I gave our youth to make this a home, a safe haven where our kids could grow up loved. Every time I tucked them in, I knew every sacrifice was worth it. But when William died, everything changed. I was 48 when a stroke took him. He was humming Hey Jude in the garage one minute. The next, I was dialing 911, hands trembling. Losing him ripped away half my soul. The house felt empty, but I stayed strong. For Michael, Laura, James, the grandkids, and the home that held our spirit, I kept it alive, cherishing every keepsake. William's watch, my mother's vase, our photo under the oak tree. I thought, with my kids, I could bear the pain. At first, they seemed to get it. Michael brought bagels on Sundays. Laura called daily with her cheerful chatter. James helped with yard work. Those moments warmed my heart. I thought it was love, family, the way we carried each other through grief. But like a Michigan winter, things shifted. Michael lost his job, and his warmth turned to tension. Jessica hovered more, her comments making me feel like an intruder. Rest more, Mom, she'd say, her eyes saying I was a nuisance. Laura married Stephen, whose sharp words made me feel unwelcome. James drifted away, his visits replaced by cold texts. I told myself they were busy, but I felt the cracks in our bond. The signs grew clearer. William's watch disappeared. I stored it safely, Jessica lied. My mother's vase was gone, probably broke. Michael dodged. Then came the money demands, car repairs, mortgage payments, school fees. I gave freely, thinking that's what moms do. But the requests became expectations. Family first, right, Mom? Jessica would say, her tone heavy with guilt trips. You don't want the grandkids to struggle, do you? My foundation shook. Was the family I trusted crumbling? I stopped being their mom. I was a burden, a means to an end. Each night, in the room that used to be ours, now stuffed with Jessica's junk, I stared at the oak tree. I remember the kids playing, William's arms around me, saying we'd done it, given them a home. But now, that home was being stolen, and I didn't cry, not now, but a fire sparked inside. That $5,200 0 cents bill wasn't just paper. It was a declaration of war. Michael and Jessica thought I'd surrender, play the frail old lady. They didn't know Anna Thompson, who raised 3 kids on a librarian salary, who stood tall after losing her soulmate. I wouldn't let them take my home, not ever. In the dark, I gripped the bill, and a plan took shape. The abuse didn't stop at the bill. After that day, Michael and Jessica seemed determined to erase me from my own home. My favorite armchair, where I'd knit and sip tea watching birds, was shoved into the basement. "We needed space for a new couch," Jessica said, like it was nothing. "Hope you don't mind." But I did mind. The photos of me and William under the oak tree, our wedding day, were replaced with Michael's wedding pictures, the grandkids' vacation snaps. My history, my memories, were wiped from the walls. I felt stripped of my identity, like I didn't belong. But I stayed quiet, not out of fear, but because my time hadn't come. Then came the chores. Jessica forgot to clean, leaving dishes piled in the sink, laundry overflowing, toys scattered. I cleaned up, unable to stand the mess in my own house. But every time I did, Jessica smiled. "You're a lifesaver, Mom. We'd be lost without you." It wasn't gratitude. It was her turning me into an unpaid maid, an invisible old woman only good for cleaning up their messes. At meals, I was served last, if there was food left. Once, they forgot to call me for dinner. I heard laughter, smelled barbecue, but no one thought of me. One night, they threw a backyard party with friends. I came down, hoping to help or say hi. Jessica's smile froze. "Oh, Mom, we thought you'd want to rest. It's just our friends." I stood there, watching strangers laugh in my yard, using William's grill, drinking from our anniversary glasses. No one offered me a plate. I went back upstairs, ate cold cereal in the kitchen corner, my heart heavy. Laura, my light, grew distant. Her husband, Stephen, made me feel like a burden. "You're lucky Michael takes care of you," he'd say. "Lots of folks have no one." His words stung. Laura called less, citing work. When I asked to visit her and the grandkids, she said, "We're on vacation, Mom." But I saw her Facebook post at a local park that week. James, my quiet boy, vanished. His Sunday yard work became texts. "You okay, Mom? Busy. Talk later." I'm not naive. Jessica was pulling the strings, and Michael was too weak to resist. Laura and James didn't hurt me directly, but their silence was just as bad. Thanksgiving was the breaking point. For 40 years, I cooked Thanksgiving dinner, even the year William died, putting turkey on the table because family was everything. This year, Jessica took over. "Rest, Mom, I've got it," she said, her tone calculated. I waited all morning, hoping to hear the clink of plates, laughter, music. No one called. At noon, I went downstairs. They'd eaten, Michael, Jessica, Laura, Stephen, James, the grandkids. Around the table I'd polished days before. Jessica jumped when she saw me. "Oh, Mom, we thought you were resting." No one met my eyes. I stood trembling, not from anger, but from realizing I wasn't family anymore, just a shadow. Later, Jessica left a foil-covered plate on the stairs with a note, "Saved for you, Happy Thanksgiving." I didn't touch it. I didn't cry. But something inside me broke. I started fighting back. I remembered the duplex in Ann Arbor, bought with cash in our early marriage, held in a trust under my name. It was our secret, a safety net for tough times. I knew it could be my weapon. I contacted Sarah Bennett, a sharp young lawyer specializing in elder rights. When I told her my story, she didn't flinch. "You're not the first," she said, her voice steady. "But you'll make them regret this." Sarah reviewed the trust, the house deeds, the $5,200 0 cents bill. She laughed. "They charged you for toilet paper in your own house." "We'll turn this around." I didn't want revenge. I wanted justice. I wanted them to feel my pain. Sarah drafted papers, an eviction notice, a declaration of my legal residency, a lawsuit for financial and emotional abuse. But I held off sending them. I needed evidence, needed them to dig their own graves. I started collecting texts, demanding money, receipts for household expenses, notes of every time they excluded me from family meals. I played the frail mom, but inside I was a warrior preparing for battle. I was done being a shadow in my own home. The $5,200 0 cents bill, the exclusion from family dinners, Laura and James's silence. They lit a fire in me. With Sarah Bennett's help, I gathered evidence ready for a showdown they'd never see coming. I wasn't after revenge, just the justice and respect I deserved. In the dark, I planned, and the fire in my heart burned brighter than ever. I moved quietly like a patient hunter. Every text from Jessica demanding living expenses, every receipt I paid for household items. I kept them. I photographed the walls, now bare of my and William's pictures. I logged every time they forgot to call me to dinner. I even set up a small camera, disguised as a nightlight, in the hallway. I caught Jessica whispering to Michael, calling me that annoying old lady, or telling the grandkids, "Don't bother Grandma, she's grumpy." Every video, every scrap of paper went into a folder labeled evidence. I wasn't doing this out of hate. I was protecting myself, my home, and standing up for other seniors treated like burdens. Sarah, with her razor-sharp mind, built an airtight plan. She reviewed the trust William and I set up after his first stroke. The house, despite what Michael and Jessica thought, was still in the trust, with me as the sole beneficiary. The transfer papers Jessica pressured me to sign were never legally finalized. "They have no claim, Anna," Sarah said, her eyes gleaming. "We'll make them pay." She drafted an eviction notice, a residency declaration, and a lawsuit for financial and emotional abuse. She even added a warning letter noting that forging ownership is a felony. But I told Sarah to hold off. I wanted the moment to be perfect, not just to reclaim my house, but to make my kids see the truth. I played the part of the week-old mom, asking Jessica how to use my smartphone or pretending to fumble with bills. I saw her smirk, thinking I was useless, but she didn't know I'd set up a wireless printer in my room, printing every document they sent. Every time Jessica asked me to pitch in or buy separate supplies, I saved the proof. I kept a daily journal noting every exclusion, every moment they treated me like an outsider. When Laura confirmed via text that Jessica told her not to invite me to the engagement party, I screenshotted it. I wasn't just preparing for myself, but for others, mothers, grandmothers, dismissed by their families. I thought of them, the woman in my support group forced into a nursing home, the widow at church suing for her jewelry. I was doing this for all of us. The chance came on a bright Sunday when Laura threw her engagement party in my backyard. White tent, pink and gold balloons, a hand-painted mimosa sign. I wasn't invited. "Just young folks, Mom," Jessica said, her voice sweet but cold. "It'd be too loud for you." I nodded, playing along, but I knew today was the day I'd take it all back. I put on the navy dress I wore to William's retirement party, brushed my hair, and looked in the mirror. "It's time," I whispered. I grabbed my evidence folder, weeks in the making, and walked out to the backyard. The party hushed as I appeared. Laura's friends stared, curious. Some smiled awkwardly. Jessica's friends and distant relatives looked away, avoiding my gaze. Jessica, by the dessert table, froze. "Mom, what are you doing out here?" she asked, her voice forcing cheer but trembling. "I'm here to give Laura a gift," I said, calm. "But everyone needs to hear this." Laura, nearby, looked puzzled but stayed quiet. Jessica stepped forward, her smile stiff. "Mom, why don't we go inside? We'll bring Laura later." "No," I said, my voice like steel. "Now works." Sarah stepped out from behind the tent where she'd been waiting. In a gray blazer, she radiated confidence. "Ladies and gentlemen," she said, her voice clear, "I'm Sarah Bennett, legal counsel for Anna Thompson, the legal owner, trust beneficiary, and resident of this home. Today, Anna is reclaiming her house, her dignity, and her rights." Stepping into the backyard, facing Jessica's stunned gaze and the engagement party guests, I, Anna Thompson, took back my home and my dignity. With Sarah Bennett by my side, I laid out the truth. The house was mine through the trust, and Michael and Jessica had 30 days to leave. Jessica paled, forcing a smile, but her eyes betrayed panic. Laura, hands trembling, opened the envelope I gave her. Not money, but a note. You drifted away, but my door's open if you choose respect. Silence hung heavy. Sarah, voice sharp, announced we'd filed a complaint with Adult Protective Services for financial and emotional abuse. I looked at Jessica. You forgot who I am. I'm not weak. And I'm not leaving. The party dissolved. The backyard emptied. And for the first time in years, I sat in my living room sipping tea, feeling the house was truly mine. The fallout was swift. A guest video from the party went viral on social media. Grandma boots son out of house, headlined Facebook and YouTube. Comments poured in. She's a queen. Don't bite the hand that feeds you. Michael and Jessica's reputation tanked. The PTA at Michael's volunteer school asked him to step down. Jessica was dropped from her local charity board. They moved out in 3 weeks, quietly loading a truck, no fight left. I stood on the porch, watching them go. Michael gave a small nod. Jessica couldn't meet my eyes. I didn't gloat. I just breathed free, like a weight had lifted. I started fresh. I repainted the living room, swapped gray curtains for bright floral ones, and brought William's armchair back from the basement. Our oak tree photo went back above the fireplace. Laura came by weeks later, eyes teary, holding an old picture of us baking together. I'm sorry, Mom, she whispered. I messed up. I hugged her. No promises, but said, you came back. That's what matters. Laura started visiting regularly, bringing coffee, helping in the garden. She even asked, will you walk me down the aisle, Mom? You're the strongest person I know. For the first time in years, I cried, not from pain, but from being seen. I updated the trust, leaving most assets to a fund called Backbone Fund, helping seniors escape abuse. Laura got her share, but I told her, use it to build, not to show off, and remember where you come from. She nodded, eyes red. Other relatives reached out, some genuinely sorry, others just smoothing things over. I welcomed the sincere, but didn't open my door out of duty. I learned love doesn't mean enduring. Strength isn't just staying quiet, it's standing up, saying enough, and reclaiming your space. Now my home is peaceful. No bills, no locked doors. I read, garden, and feel William smiling somewhere. I started a support group at the community center where seniors share their stories, not with shame, but pride. One woman said, you inspired me to stand up to my son. That's my biggest win. I didn't need revenge. I found myself again, not a burden, but the backbone of my family, of myself.